Since just March this year, 35 innocent people have been murdered in the name of Islam. A further 216 have been injured in these attacks. While I do admire the spirit of the British people as a whole, with the attitude of not letting even the worst tragedies get in the way of our lives, but this is not 1940. This is not the London Blitz, where the phrase "keep calm and carry on" originated. The phrase has been diluted to mean something totally different now. During the Second World War, it meant no matter how bad things get, we'll get through it. We'll stick together, make sure that our neighbours who've just lost their home have somewhere to stay and some food to eat. If the Queen Elizabeth pub has been reduced to rubble, then we'll all pile into the Dog and Duck and have a right old jolly knees up, and no fucking Nazi is ever going to stop us. And tomorrow, we'll get back into the munitions factory and make even more bullets and bombs to drop on old Jerry. Now it means just forget what happened. Don't be angry at the people we're at war with, because there is no war. And, it might just upset someone. Stick your head in the sand and get used to it. But we are in a war. And fighting a war against terrorism is a dirty one. But it's one we can only win if we fight back. And that means getting angry. It means telling our governments that we should not have to put up with suspected terrorists being able to walk freely in the UK. They have no right to abode here, and we're under no obligation to have them on our shores. First of all, anyone known to have been to a country that has links to ISIS or Islamist training camps and cannot prove their whereabouts during their stay there should not be allowed back in the UK, whether they're a British national or not. Failing that, they should be arrested and treated like a prisoner of war and detained until this war is over. Secondly, close the borders. We're an island, for fuck's sake, so we already have a really good advantage to keeping out illegals. We don't neighbour any country at war, so we shouldn't have to take in so-called refugees. Thirdly, any suspected terrorists that don't have the right to abode in the UK should be deported without delay. And no, this is not against anyone's human rights, since they're not British nationals in the first place. The fact that they claim asylum is irrelevant. What happens to these people when sent back to their own countries is not our problem. The only ones we do have a responsibility to protect are the ones who've left the barbaric religion and now their lives are in actual danger, since the penalty for apostates is death. And fourth, our police should be armed. Hell, even some of the street patrol cops don't even have truncheons. All our police should at least be armed with a handgun, and trained on how to use it safely, of course, obviously. Because when it takes 8 minutes to take down a group of terrorists in our capital city, imagine just how many lives would have been saved if they didn't have to wait for official armed response. If our cops on the ground are armed, then it would have been dealt with even quicker. But sadly, before even any of that can be addressed, there's a bigger issue causing huge barriers and preventing dialogue. It's not so much the Muslims themselves, moderate or extremist, but this whole narrative of "we must unite against hatred," and all those who dare to say we need to talk about this problem within Islam are automatically branded as racists. Of course, the media sprang into action with their #NotAllMuslims narrative, looking for any little stories surrounding the Manchester bombing that makes Islam look like the religion of peace. I'm not denying the fact that there were Muslim taxi drivers that turned off the meters to get people home safely. But did you think all other taxi drivers went, "Fuck it, they can pay"? No, all taxi drivers of different religions and backgrounds did the same thing. But that's not newsworthy, is it? Christian, atheist, Sikh or Hindu taxi drivers helping? Nope, don't give a shit. What about the homeless guys that were sleeping rough and heard the blast and came to the aid of the victims? Yeah, but they were white and not Muslims, so we're going to ignore that story. And you can say, what about the Muslim doctors and nurses that treated all the victims in the local hospitals? Well, that's completely irrelevant. They're doing their fucking jobs. A mighty fine one, absolutely. But why are they all here in the first place? Because the pay's better, it's a better standing of living than anywhere in the Middle East, because any country controlled by Islam is a fucking shithole. So when people keep saying unite against hatred, it's certainly not because they want Islam to go through the same reforms Christianity went through and put an end to ridiculous witch hunts, the Spanish Inquisition, and even the ban on fucking dancing after the English Civil War. Fuck you, Oliver Cromwell. Sure, they'll bring all that nonsense up, such as the Crusades and the Southern Baptist Church, to make a point that all religions have their bad eggs. But something that happened 600 years ago is irrelevant. Morons holding homophobic signs and protesting at soldiers' funerals is hardly in the same ballpark as murdering young kids at a pop concert or mounting the curb to plough through fucking pedestrians, is it? What they mean about unite against hatred is that they want us to stop talking about the truth. Even our own police, who are supposed to protect us, threaten prison sentences to anyone who wants to have a reasonable dialogue, and how we can put these issues to an end. Yes, I'm angry. I have a right to be fucking angry. I don't want to have to put a "I stand with wherever" filter on my Facebook photo. I don't want to post a hashtag pray for wherever, because no matter how many people do it, it's not made a slight bit of difference. I'm just one voice among hundreds of thousands demanding real change. As the anti-terrorism ads go, if you see something, say something. Well, we do see something. We see the core issues and where the problems are stemming from. Muslim grooming gangs all over the UK, known to the police and local councils, and still do nothing for fear of being branded a racist or Islamophobic. The imams who openly spread hate in the mosques, radicalising the followers, while the genuine moderate imams who do want reforms are branded Uncle Toms or even traitors. The fact that we have more British Muslims heading abroad to join ISIS than we do have joining the British Armed Forces shows us a huge problem. I know this is old news, but I'm going to remind you. At least 1,400 young girls were raped and abused by Muslim grooming gangs, spanning from the late 80s to present day, just in one northern town in England. Just let that sink in for a moment. 1,400 girls, mostly aged between 11 to 16. Drugged, gang raped, blackmailed, and even had their families and friends threatened when they tried to stop it. Yet the Rotherham councillors let it happen because they were more concerned about being called a racist or an Islamophobe than they were about keeping these young girls and their families safe. And it's still going on! Then we find out this shit's been happening in Rochdale. So where were all these so-called moderate Muslims then? 1,400 victims and no one knew it was going on. Bullshit! We know how close-knit these Muslim communities are, and to say this just happened under everyone's noses with no one knowing about it is utter shite. The fact that they all remain silent is just as bad as the ones who did the crime in the first place. So, now can we talk about the evil that's within Islam? Because if you think your arse has got kicked in the last Crusades, you really don't want to be on the wrong end of another one. So until next time, fuck Muhammad, fuck Mecca, and praise cake.